Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphanlast, aka Skylar Madison, and today we're going to resume the basic head turn animation, and I'll be adding hair to this guy as well. And I'll start working on the basic coloring. So far, with all my animations in Opentoonz, I've kept things rather simple when I've colored things in Opentoonz. But I actually want this animation to look really good, so I'll have another video where I'm just doing the final detailing in terms of what I'm doing with the coloring process. Now, sometimes when you animate something like a character's hair, it's given its own spacing chart, but since I'm working with simplistic shapes with this animation, and I'm just kind of trying to see what works and what doesn't with animation, I just went ahead and just did something rather simplistic, really basic. I tried to make sure that the little Ace Ventura frontal swoop of his hair made sure that it did some movement that coincided with the movement of the head. I kind of have it stretch out, kind of duck down, and then kind of swing back up. It's not the exact same movement of the head. Now, a lot of this video is going to be a bit of a speed animation. I am going to cover a couple of topics that I haven't discussed in the past. Everything that you're seeing in this video is at 10 times speed, except for when I'm narrating what I'm doing and covering something that I haven't really discussed before in the past. Just feel free to learn whatever you can from the speed animation where I'm drawing the hair out. If there's something that you can learn from the process, it's really the same process as what I use for everything else in the face. Make good use of the arcs and everything like that. And at this point, I decided to work on the cleanup stage with a vector level, primarily because I don't plan on coloring the image with the vector level itself at all. But working with vectors in the cleanup stage can be rather nice because the lines are really adjustable with the control point editor and the pump tool. The main things that I focus on during the first process of cleaning up this animation was making sure that the outline looked good. The main thought process was that oftentimes having the lines that go along the outer areas of a character, or lines that indicate things are going through depth towards the camera, tend to be a little thicker, and this oftentimes makes characters have a bit of polish, but more than that, if the character is placed over a background image, the thicker lines help distinguish a character as being a little bit different from the background, making it so that it's clearly obvious this person is standing a ways in front of other objects that you're seeing on the screen. I also focused on the outline primarily because I didn't want to keep adjusting the line thickness of everything in the scene. Notice how I added motion blurs, kind of like just little squiggly lines and clones of the character's face in the breakdown image, which is in the middle of the head turn. Ultimately, I could have stretched the character's head out on that frame, and probably would have gotten away with it. But I've been watching Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and every once in a while I look at things frame by frame, and notice that they do motion blurs with clones quite often, and it's just something that I'm exploring right now. After the outline was finished, I started drawing the details in the interior of the character, and I considered my rough animation to be a really rough sketch, and so I decided on some special details for the eyes that are just kind of subtle, and specific shapes for the eyebrows, and I stuck with that through the whole process of animating this guy. Now, after posting my recent Opentoonz news video, someone critiqued that I was fighting to have a fill brush in Opentoonz while drawing your strokes in Opentoonz isn't quite as crisp as some people would like. Now, if you enjoy drawing with rasters, you can clean up your image with rasters and then copy all your levels in the level strip and paste them into vector levels if you'd like, or you can just clean up your animation on another raster level. It's all up to you. It's your creation. You're the one that has the ultimate say in how your animation is constructed. I just love the crispness of the vector lines and how you're liberated with the camera. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, do extreme zoom ins, do extreme zoom outs, and the image still looks good. But more on the point with the complaint that I got with drawing your strokes in Opentoonz. Yes, I would actually agree that drawing your line work in vectors isn't as exact as I'd like it to be. I understand the complaint, but ultimately we're thinking about incorporating elements from the open source program VPaint in the form of making VPaint vector levels. And I tested out the drawing process with VPaint, and though I don't know much about VPaint, such as how to control the smoothness and accuracy of your strokes, my brief experience with VPaint seemed rather smooth. I'll continue to research the program further to see if we can do something with the strokes in Opentoonz. Of course, I can't promise much because at the moment I'm just sharing ideas that we're bouncing off each other, and ultimately I wanted to show you guys what I was trying to get into Opentoonz. The way I understand it, Opentoonz works with what's called a planar maps system. So whatever gets coded into Opentoonz, it needs to be compatible with that type of coding. It needs to work with its strengths and avoid its weaknesses. Otherwise, we'll wind up with a crowdfunding campaign that'll never get funded because it's just too expensive. So at this point, I create a Toonz raster level and call it basic head turn color, and I change the DPI to 300. I then move this level up on the timeline so that it's lower on the stacking order. This way, the vector work is covering all of the raster lines. I then labeled the column color. I go to my vector cleanup work on the level strip by selecting the first level and then selecting the last level holding Shift. I press Ctrl C to copy the information and go to my new color column and select the level strip there and press Ctrl V to paste all those levels in. I then get a pop-up that asks if I want to replace the palette, and I click Replace Palette. It may take a little bit of time for the program to load this process, but give it a little bit of time and it'll load all your levels from your vector cleanup work into your new Toonz raster level. Notice that level 1 is already in the X sheet, so go ahead and select level 2 and then select the last level on the level strip holding Shift and drag the levels into the X sheet, into the color column. It actually helps to keep the Shift button held down as you click and drag onto the X sheet. I select all the frames that are on my color column, animate them on 2s, and select the last frame of the column to the end of the animation so that it reflects everything that's seen from my rough animation column and my vector cleanup column. At this point, I select the fill tool, set the type to freehand, I tick the box that says selective, which means it won't alter anything that's already drawn, and then I set it to frame range. Sometimes frame range doesn't work as well as I like, but it sometimes saves time. If you continue to have problems in this whole process, turn off the selective mode. But the idea of turning on the selective mode is that you're able to erase the fill areas and then fill in another fill into there without it disrupting the other colors in that area. So you have a fill against another fill. Toonz raster levels records whether or not you've put down strokes and fills. So Toonz raster fills against strokes. So you butt up two fills against each other, and oftentimes if you don't have selective turned on, it'll just go ahead and color everything the same color. You turn selective on and you have two different colors, and you have those two fills that are two different colors touching each other, and they'll just touch each other. One of the fills won't get overridden by the other. The first thing that I tackle in the coloring process is the coloring of the eyes. I then color the hair. Sometimes if there's a gap in your line work, you can pull out the brush and use the style color that you're working with, fill the gap with a stroke, and then you can just fill it in. I then tackle the skin tone and color it rather stupidly, where the eyes and mouth get colored in as well. But this gives me the opportunity to show you guys a little technique that Behemoth taught me. You can select the eraser and set it to frame range. Yes, the eraser does have a frame range option, and you can set the type to freehand. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Partially through the way, I just set the type to normal and erase things frame by frame manually, but using the frame range option to the eraser can help you do some detailed shading and highlights. Once a freehand shape is erased on multiple frames in the eraser tool, you can pull out your fill tool, set the type to freehand rectangle, and having selective turned on and frame range turned on as well, and you can fill in erased areas with a new style rather easily. But if you go that route, make sure that you're not trying to make the refined shapes immediately. You'll want to do it a little bit incrementally. I then decide to color the shirt. And that finishes off this video. In the next video, in this 51 animation challenges, I'll be doing some extra detailing with the colors in this animation. Maybe give you guys a bonus where I start constructing another head turn with a rotoscope. I don't know how much free time I'll get. But if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, please like, share, and subscribe anyways. Thank you for your time.